I talk, you listen, or you turn the channel. Either way, I'm still going to talk. Welcome to Unfiltered. Just finishing up a couple notes here. I have been in the most terrible mood for the past couple weeks, which is why there was no new episode last week, because I didn't feel like burdening all of you with my problems. So I felt, it was one of those times where if you can't say nothing nice, then just don't say anything at all. So I avoided everybody. Pulled the covers over my head for a few days, and but pretty much was miserable. So, and these guys can attest to that, as well as anybody else that was ever, had to deal with me. Got a great show this week. I'm going to kick off seeing as how we ran out of old Music Fest material, and the new Music Fest is just around the corner. I've got a special little treat for Musical Interlude this week and for the next few weeks coming up. But we'll get to that when we get to that. What do I want to start with? Something I don't really know a whole lot about because I just saw a little blip. Actually, speaking of little blips, I tuned in Glenn Beck last night. And one of the little scrolls that went across the bottom of the screen said, I can't remember who it was attributed to, but they had announced that U.S. oil stockpiles made a dramatic jump over the past week. And that was all it said. So it got me to thinking, how did that happen? Did somebody just open a door and go, hey, look, there's 1 million barrels of oil in here. Hey, we've got a lot of extra. The way they put it, and then there was no story about it, but the price keeps dropping. Keene, I think now is between 369 and 367. I think is about the lowest I've seen in Keene. Even down there at that Monadnock fuel, where they always drop their prices like 3 or 4 cents lower than everybody, because I think they're trying to cause an accident down there with people in line. Because there's no room for lines. Anyway, this little blurb came across. Texas is making great steps in education because they're going to allow their teachers to carry guns. Yeah. Now, this is a state that leads the nation in executions as far as the death penalty goes. And everybody says Texas is such a badass state and everything. But from what I understand, it's one of the most heavily policed states in the nation. So, but the teachers are going to be able to carry guns. They're going to have to be properly licensed and trained in both usage and safety, as well as crisis management, which is probably a good thing, the whole stay calm during a crisis thing, and they'll also use an ammo that will prevent ricocheting bullets. So whether they're going to use rubber bullets or wax bullets or whatever, But yeah, rubber bullets actually would ricochet. Maybe the wax ones probably won't. So maybe that's what they're going to use. But unless they're going to use a pellet kind of a shell, there's still always the chance that, kids during a crisis situation, chances are going to freak out. They're going to be running everywhere, screaming. So I don't know. There's always going to be the chance that there are going to be innocents in the line of fire. But I think it's a good step Just, I mean, you figure if everybody carried a gun, criminals would have to think twice. Because they, it would be the whole guessing game. Does he have a gun? Doesn't he have a gun? Is it worth taking the chance to try and rob this guy? Because he might pull out a gun and shoot me. That's the only, gun control and laws about gun control are just words on paper. All the actual restrictions are in here and in here. Your brain and your moral compass, is what's going to determine whether you get a gun and shoot somebody, either, just cold-bloodedly or in self-defense. Some people I don't think could even, even if their life depended on them pointing a gun at somebody and shooting them, I don't think they could do it. It would have to be, actual fear. It would be the only thing that would cause anybody to do that. So, I don't know. It's kind of stupid as far as all the gun laws and, if there were no laws, you just let people have guns, the honest people are going to own guns responsibly and, probably never shoot them at anybody. In the later years, after my dad had stopped hunting, he barely ever even pulled out his guns. But he had them. And that's the whole point. The right to keep and bear arms. I don't think my dad, even if somebody had broken into the house, would ever shot him. Because that was, my old man thought like people did back then. If you have problems, you call the police. You don't take the law into your own hands. Of course, everybody didn't think like that, but all right, what else? I'll go back to 2. For this one, yeah, let me talk about this one. Because I'm going to spend a lot of time between this education a little bit later, but this story sparked it all. And this story was one of the main reasons that I said, I've got to do a show this week because I can't let this one slip by. We spend a lot of money to send our kids to colleges. A lot of money. I don't know what Keene State tuition is, but it's probably $30,000 a year anyway. No, you don't think, Greg?
No.
25 maybe?
No.
20?
If you're going to stay on campus, probably about 10.
About 10, really? That cheap? Wow. All right. Well, then it wouldn't be such a great loss. I'm getting to solutions here. Not only are you going to hear problems tonight, you're going to hear solutions, because I've got them, and they probably involve shooting people. Most of my solutions do. But our colleges these days are full of idiots. And I'm not talking about the people that go to them, but a lot of them are idiots too. I'm talking about the people that are actually in charge of colleges and that are the teachers and the people that are supposed to be molding our kids. But listen to this. Here's their way of thinking. More than 100 college professors in the nation, including 2 presidents of universities in New Hampshire, are supporting something called the Amethyst Initiative. So they're going to lobby to have the drinking age lowered to 18 because they think it will help with the problem of binge drinking. Sure. Make the alcohol more accessible, kids won't drink as much. See how retarded that is? It's not when they can get alcohol or how they can get alcohol, because 12-year-old kids can get alcohol. If a 12-year-old kid will have a 21-year-old person buy them alcohol because drinking age is 21. But a 12-year-old kid's got to make friends with somebody that's 21. which is, that looks kind of funny. Where if you lower it to 18, they can make friends with somebody who's more likely to be approachable, still a teenager, and is that much closer to remembering what 12 and wanting a drink was like. Make the drinking age 30, and teenagers won't get any booze, because nobody 30 years old is going to stop for a teenager on, standing in front of a store. It's going, hey, can you buy me some beer? A 30-year-old will go, get out of here, you punk. Especially with the level of respect that these teenagers have for older people. You have to make it harder to obtain alcohol, or you have to make the consequences greater. Here's the solution I was talking about. You shoot them. No. Honestly, turn your campuses into dry campuses. And here's what it takes: zero tolerance. You don't slap them on the wrist. If they're caught with alcohol on campus, if they're caught drunk on campus, expel them. Kick them out of school. Sorry, tuition is not refundable. Plain and simple. If you're going to fool around, it's going to cost you. Maybe you won't fool around. It's too expensive. It's funny because years and years ago, I got a DWI. So in order to get my license back, of course, the first thing I did was live for 7 or 8 years with no license. Because that was easy. I had a wife that had a license. So she could just drive me anywhere. It didn't affect me until we got separated. And then I lost my taxi. So I had to clean up a bunch of old fines from down in New Jersey where the DWI happened. I had to go to a weekend-long alcohol course. Now, the first thing they ask you when you go into this course, after you've paid the enormous, whatever it is, $400 or $500 for the weekend course, they sit you down in a room and they say, do you have a drinking problem? And of course, everybody goes, well, I don't have a drinking problem. They said, well, it cost you $500 to come here. You paid a whole bunch of fines. You're stuck here for the weekend. Isn't that a problem? Yeah, it kind of is. So, that cost me a lot of money. So then when I got out of that, of course, the reason I got my license back was so that I could do tractor-trailer training and start driving truck. So once I paid the money for that, which was like $2,000, better than $2,000, that's a lot of money to throw away because I'm too stupid not to drink and drive. There's a lesson. It's all about money. Kids these days don't even blink an eye at a $100 fine. They go, oh, I got busted for open container, I got to pay $100. I'll pay it. And then next week they're right back out with an open container again. Or drinking underage or doing something stupid. And you have to do more than just slap the wrist. Make an example. That's it. The dry campus, zero tolerance. That's what it is. And it's the same with respect. If you've got smart-ass students that mouth off in class, disrespect the teachers, get them the hell out of school. Set an example. Show the kids growing up that this kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated in our society. We want to govern ourselves, but each individual can't even take care of themselves. But yet, once we all get together and vote for a president, all these people that, you know, are just stupid about the smallest little details in life and have no responsibility, no respect. These are the people that are choosing our leaders. And they're just like you and me. Everybody's got their moments. Nobody's perfect. And thank God. You know? I mean, comes down to the teaching. Comes down to the parenting. The problem with schools and the whole adequate education, that's been, and I'm sure it's going to come up again in this next election that we've got coming up, for not only on the national level but on the state level with the Congress and the governor and all that, and the Senate. Adequate education is going to come up again. And they're trying to figure out what courses what kids need to know. Well, I heard the secret to that last night on Glenn Beck. Somebody said, you have to teach kids how to think, not what to think. So the point isn't the subjects that they're learning. The point is, are they learning to think independently, to think responsibly, you know, and to think morally? And maybe, you know, maybe we do have to bring some of the old church lessons back into school. You know, the morality stuff. And I don't know. I remember back when I was a kid, some of the only Bible phrases that some people knew were, you know, that Words to the Bird song, for every season, there's a time. Remember that song? A season for love, a season for... Isn't that the name of it, For Every Season? By the Byrds, an old Byrd song. But I think it's in Proverbs, is what the song, I think they wrote the song, pretty much plagiarized the Bible and wrote the song. But it was a good song, so God didn't sue him.
I agree with you. It's just that too many parents nowadays won't take the time to be good parents.
Right. Well, that's one of our problems, is we have to take the time. There has to be, you know, people have to slow down and just, you know, we race through life so damn fast. Everybody's got to be somewhere yesterday, and they don't have time to smile, and they don't have time to say hi. And it's stupid. We've spent our lives creating machines to make our lives easier, but yet we're not kicked back on the couch like old George Jetson, you know, while the machine does the work. No, we're got to move on to something else. You know, relax. You know, it's not going to last forever, and someday you'll all be in, you know, terrible trouble. So, but anyway, that's the beginning of my whole lower the drinking age and it'll cure binge drinking. I don't know, maybe just make heroin free and there won't be any heroin addicts. You know, if it was that simple, you know, maybe if that's the case, then maybe just, I don't know, make gasoline free. And maybe people won't binge drive. Or give driver's licenses out to 12 years old. That way, people won't abuse driving or gas or something. I don't know. All right. I think it's ready for crew call, don't you, Bruce? I only wrote down one of my times out here. So, and hey, crew call's real easy tonight, as long as Greg stands in the right spot. We've got Greg on all the cameras and doing everything else. Greg is also our laugh track, in case nobody noticed. In the booth is Bruce and Andrea.
How's it going out there tonight, Rick?
Good. I almost said in the booth again.
In the booth? Yep, we're hanging out here in the booth. Andrea made it this week. Fortunately, weather's been cooperating, so she's not feeling too beat up. Decided to come down and play with us, so
It was a beautiful day today, man.
it was a gorgeous day. The weather was so cool. Just too bad I had to be stuck inside, tied to a machine most of the day.
I got to tell you, though, Wednesday morning I woke up and I was freezing.
It's been kind of chilly in the morning here lately.
It was
I don't know if it's quite long john weather yet, but
no, well, it was into the 40s
yeah, it's
on
been
Wednesday
chilly
morning.
in the morning.
So, but it's supposed to warm up here at the end of the week, and the weekend is supposed to be beautiful.
Yep.
I guess the next chance of rain is like Monday or Tuesday, I think. So,
I was hearing maybe
Yeah.
Sunday, but yeah, it's a few days away. We got a couple of nice days to get out and do some things outdoors. Everybody could use the sunshine. It's been depressing. So
at this time, it's wrap up all those summertime projects because
Yeah,
fall is
well,
approaching.
yeah, still got to get out and do some work on the outside of the house, and so Yahoo, always
Yeah.
something to do. But we're going to give it to Andrea and let her fill you in on what's been happening this past week in NASCAR and pump us up for Bristol this week. Bristol racing. Oh.
All right.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Bristol. That's always a lot of fun. But let me tell you what, I've been loving this weather in the morning. You guys with no meat on your bones, you deserve to be cold. I've been just loving it because I've been feeling comfortable. Of course, everybody else is all bundled up. But anyways, yeah, the race this past week it was actually a pretty good one. I'll give you the results real quick. I'm going to just give you the first five, and then I'll give you, well, pretty much the dilemma that the rest of us were in. Carl Edwards won the race. He actually swept the weekend, so that was a good weekend for him. Kyle Busch, the little skunk, came in second. We can't get rid of him. David Reagan had a good finish, and coming in third. Then there was Greg Biffle, and then Matt Kenseth. Now, Tony Stewart, Greg's guy, he came in 12th, so that was a good finish, considering where the rest of the chase drivers were. My guy, Martin Truex, came in 16th, and believe it or not, 16th place actually took the money in our little pool.
Oh, aren't
Can you
lucky?
imagine that? 16th. But then Bruce's guy, Little Dale Jr., he came in 23rd, and yeah, Little Dale Jr., he's just a little guy. He's not a big guy. And then Rick, I'm sorry, but Kenny blew up. He just kind of blowed sky high. Little Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in 39th. But anyhow, well, I say little, but let me tell you what. I guess Allmendinger's a little. He's a whole lot littler than all of them. So I probably ought not to call him that. Anyways, the standings right now. They said after Bristol, the top four guys may possibly be able to lock themselves into the chase. So that's something for them to look forward to. But right now it's Kyle Busch. He's still leading the pack. Then Carl Edwards came up to second place. Jimmy Johnson is in third. Dale Jr. popped down to fourth. But with these bad runnings with these guys, I'm surprised some of them are still hanging in there. Jeff Burton dropped to fifth. And let's see, there's Tony Stewart in sixth. Greg Biffle, seventh. Kevin Harvick came up into eighth. Jeff Gordon, he is still hanging in the chase, but he dropped down to ninth. Matt Kenseth is in 10th. Casey Kane is in 11th. And believe it or not, Rick, Denny Hamlin is bringing up 12th. Clint Boyer is just hanging on the bubble. He's just about 23 points out. So he's got a chance of still getting in there. But so that's not bad. Now, this week, I lost my paper, so hopefully I can remember. They're going to, like I said, they're going to be running at Bristol, and they have Kenny Schrader has been asked to drive in the 96 this week. So that's going to be kind of nice to see him back out on the track again. They also had an announcement that Ryan Newman was definitely going to Stewart-Haas Racing, and it was first said that he would be driving the number 4. But today I was reading that it's not the number 4, it is actually the number 39. So he'll be driving that. Now, The big news, at least I think it's big news, and it's in the Nationwide, and it's not the Cup Series, but it's Nationwide Series, so please understand that. Gibbs Racing, the number 18 and the number 20, when they went through inspection after the race, they were found to be in violation. Apparently, their crew chief and some other members of the teams collectively decided to attach magnets to the throttle, which I don't understand what the devil it caused happen, but it made it look like they actually had less horsepower than they did. Blatant cheating. Now, the drivers, and it happened to be Tony Stewart in the 20 this week, and Joey Logano was in the 18. They both lost 150 driver points. Owner lost the same thing. The owner lost 150 points. There was a $50,000 fine that went out to the crew chiefs, and the crew chiefs have been suspended indefinitely. And then Gibbs Racing went right along behind NASCAR, and they actually indefinitely suspended, or if you want to put it in politer terms or not so polite terms, they fired 7 of their crew members. And they also levied additional fines on them at the same time, because they said that they were not going to put up with that. There was no excuse for it. So anyways, that's pretty much the way it went last week. It was a good race. Now this one here at Bristol, it's a night race at Bristol, so it ought to be a lot of fun, and it ought to be real exciting. So tune in to Bristol. Friday night is the Nationwide. Let's see, we watched the truck race at Bristol on Wednesday night, and Kyle Busch won that one too. Like I said, you can't get away from the little skunk. Yeah, Jimmy Johnson did make his truck debut, and I'm not sure, I don't know where he ended. Oh, Bruce said he didn't end well. So that apparently didn't go real well. But right now, Kyle Busch, you could put him in a wheelbarrow and he'd win in it. But, which is too bad. But anyways, Nationwide, they have the race on Friday night at Bristol, and we have our Cup on Saturday, so we ought to have some good racing this weekend.
All right.
Anyways, back to you, Rick.
Thank you, Andrea. And let's gear up, because we don't have Tarzan this week. Apparently the football practice schedule or something is such that Tarzan has to pick up the boy when the show's on. So, but he'll be back next week. Unfortunately, we'll still be missing Rob through the end of football season, I believe. Hopefully, we can get him back once in a while. But hey, seeing as how we are, like I said, out of the Music Fest video stuff this week, you know, the greatest. I grew up in an age. There was records. Started with the AM records, of just records, and basically AM radio in Keene was all you could get. Eventually, FM radio started coming in. Records changed to 8-track tapes, which were great because you could take them in the car, except one song on every 8-track tape changed tracks right in the middle of the song. So that was one of the bad things. And they wore out, started dragging, and of course it made the music sound kind of cool if you were tripping. But other than that, junk. So cassettes came out, which was, it didn't have the jump in the middle of one song, but they still wore out and sounded cool when you were tripping. Eventually, things moved into CD, and the whole listening experience was great. And now there's high def, and there's computers, and MP3s, which makes the listening experience, I guess, a lot better than records. The A lot of people thought the whole MP3 and the whole computer sharing aspect of music was like the best thing that ever happened to music. But it's not. Best thing that ever happened to music was when music and video started to become one. And MTV pretty much brought that to the forefront in the early 80s. They were music videos, there were concerts, and that's what MTV was. Music videos and concert footage of bands that you used to listen to on the record and look at their picture. Now you could actually see them moving, see them playing the guitar, see the guitar faces that the guitarists all made. And it was a fantastic thing. This is back when MTV apparently was owned by, corporate America, before all the hip hop and all that took over MTV. There were no reality shows on MTV. There was no, who's on MTV these days? Hulk Hogan, and
It's all reality.
it's all reality. And it's stupid reality. Flavor Flav. Who cares if this ugly dude's got, all these girlfriends trying to see who can hook up with him and get his friggin' money? Because that's the only thing they got to be after. Guy's butt ugly, but he's got $1 billion because he's some famous hip-hop guy or something. And sure, anybody wants to be with a dude that's got $1 million. But MTV kicked it off with their concerts. And for any of you that weren't alive in the early 80s, which is a lot of my audience, for the next few weeks, because shortly after MTV started, VCRs hit the public market. And shortly after I got married, the wife and I bought one of the top of the line 4-head VCRs. And I started recording everything. Then I found some old 25-year-old tapes that I had taped from MTV. And for the next few weeks, I'm going to show you a song from a few different bands and give you a taste of what MTV used to be like and what I think is the best part of music, which is concert videos. So that's what the next few weeks of musical interludes. Tonight we've got a group called Golden Earring, and this is the Mom's Tattoo musical interlude.
Cross intoxicated. And if you were me, you would have done the same. So spare me the drug, save it from the ball and the shit. Inside, I got chicken for my baby. I see the door hanging, no one ringing for my baby. Devil makes me do it. Yes, it's right. Wow, devil makes me do it. Don't really want to do it, baby. See, the devil makes me do it. Don't really want to do it, baby. Oh, the devil makes me do it, yeah. See, the devil makes me do it, yeah. See, the devil makes me do it, yeah. See, the devil makes me do it, yeah.
Golden Earring, filmed in June of 1984 in Holland. The members of the band are George Kooijmans, who is the lead guitarist, Barry Hay, who is the lead singer, Rinus Gerritsen, who is the bass player, and Cesar Zuderwijk, all from the Netherlands. And the band was founded in 1961 in The Hague in the Netherlands. It was founded by, at the time, 13-year-old Kooijmans, the lead guitarist, and 15-year-old Rinus Gerritsen, the bass player. And they started playing out. They were originally the Tornadoes, but they changed the name to the Golden Earrings when they discovered that the Tornadoes was already being used by another touring band. So they changed it to Golden Earrings, or the Golden Earrings. They dropped the S in 1969, probably because it just sounded kind of stupid. That song, The Devil Made Me Do It, was released in June of 1982. And it climbed as high as number 16 on the charts. Probably their biggest hit was Radar Love. I believe that was 73. They also had a hit with Twilight Zone and a song called When the Lady Smiles. I believe they are at this point, or they will be in 2009, the oldest touring rock band ever. 1961 to 2009, because they're planning a comeback tour in the UK with shows in London and Ipswich. So, I mean, but then again, in 61, these guys were like barely teenagers. So they've got the longevity, and they came out with, you know, their biggest hit didn't even debut until the 70s, the early 70s. Some of their other hits, Twilight Zone, I believe, it came out in the 80s. So the band was 20 years old before, you know, they were still making fantastic music. I don't know. I didn't look at the discography to see if they've made anything newer than the 80s. But their stuff is kind of hard to find in the record stores. Everything now is like the compilations, the 20th Century Masters collections, and all these super hits collections and stuff that you can find. But a great band. And I've got to tell you, the level of talent and everything was just so tight. And I mean, Eddie Van Halen had nothing on these guys, let me tell you. While these guys you barely heard anything from them, Van Halen was out there claiming, you know, they were gods and this and that. But these, Golden Earring is some of the music I listened to because it wasn't mainstream. They had the one or two songs that hit the radio, Radar Love and Twilight Zone. Other than that, you had to go out and buy the albums and listen to the albums, simply not because that's what was popular, because that was good music. And good music, you couldn't rely on the radio to tell you what good music is. You had to rely on the radio for that one song and go, oh, that's a really good sound. Another group is REO Speedwagon. Way back in the 70s, when they weren't real mainstream. They were like off the beaten track, but they had one or two songs. But once you bought the album and you went, wow, this is gold. Every single song on the album was perfect. So, and MTV, like I said, way different than what it is now. They actually started the music video craze. So, all right.
What was the first video ever shown on MTV?
I've got it in my book. And I don't know where it is, but it was it you too?
No, it was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Bangles.
All right. Yeah. I remember. And that was when music, not only did you get the music, but a lot of those videos, the concept videos and stuff, you actually saw the story. You know, and David Lee Roth was great for that. His video for Beautiful Girls, his video for Just a Gigolo, remember that? With all the different characters and the stuff happening and stuff flying around. Fantastic. Fantastic videos. I've seen old Dawkins videos. And I mean, that was, MTV probably helped the rise of every hair band in America. Because without MTV, most of those hair bands would have been just, you know, nobody ever would have heard of them. Their records would have hit the store and went from the store into the bargain bin, you know, 3 for $1 or whatever. All right. 10 minutes, all right. Better talk about this then. I found this stuff at 7-Eleven. What an ingenious idea. It's a plastic can bottle with an aluminum top. Got to be a recycler's nightmare. I mean, make up your mind. One of these two things is bad for us. So instead of just making all cans or all plastic bottles, let's split the difference. We'll use mostly plastic, but we'll put a metal top on it so people don't know whether to put it in the plastics or the metals. So, I don't know. It's not like the cover just pries off either. What a retarded idea. And it does say, please recycle on the side of it. Got the little recycle thing.
Now, is that a ban or a canodle?
Is it a what? Oh. I don't know what the hell they call it.
I think it's a canodle.
Maybe
It's-
you melted the plastic.
Apparently somebody complained that you can't stack water bottles. So, they made stackable water bottles.
Maybe when they recycle the plastic melts quicker.
The plastic probably does melt quicker. They just heat up the top. Plastic melts. Plus, it's got a plastic. Not only does it have plastic, it's got the little paper plastic stuff around the outside with the words and the pictures on it for water. And it's cheap. It's cheaper than whole plastic bottles. Oh yeah. I didn't think about that. I just thought, you know, it tastes pretty good, and even though it's in a stupid container, I might as well drink it because it's cheap. And I never drink 20 ounces of water in one shot anyway. Can't stand it. Oh, this is not bad. Apple flavor. Because I'm getting ready for fall, the whole apple picking thing, you know. Hey, Bruce gave me these stories here. He pulled out of off the web with stupid criminals. Now get this. A dude that walked in, it doesn't say where it is, but he wrote, he walked into a Bank of America and grabbed a deposit slip, and on the back of it wrote, "This is a stick-up. Put all your money in this bag." And it was all spelt wrong, like he was hooked on phonics or something. You know, it was all spelled just the way it sounds. While he was waiting in line, he started worrying that somebody might have saw him write the note. So he left, and he went across the street to the Wells Fargo Bank. And he waited a few minutes in their line, and he walked up, and he handed the teller the note, and she read the note, and after she read the note, she figured out, because of the spelling, that he probably wasn't too bright. So she told him, I'm sorry, sir, we can't honor this because it's written on a Bank of America bank slip. So he said, okay, and he went back across the street to the Bank of America, where after he left, the Wells Fargo teller called the cops and filled them in on what was about to go down across the street. So they arrested him while he was waiting in line.
Whatever town it was.
This is,
I don't even know.
maybe a college student. Here's another one, right along these lines, only not in a bank, but in a little corner store. A guy walks in with a shotgun, sticks it in the cashier's face, and demands all the money from the cash register. Now, most cashiers are trained when they get the job. The $130 in the cash register is not worth your life. If you get robbed, just, give him the money, carry the register out for him, or whatever. So the cashier put all the money in the bag. Well, as the cashier handed the man the bag, the guy notices a bottle of scotch on the counter behind the clerk and says, put that bottle of scotch in the bag too. Well, the cashier refused. Said, I'm not going to give you the scotch because I don't think you're 21. Good cashier. Somebody smart if the liquor commissioner.
Well, he
was
didn't
there or
want to get
something.
fired for serving somebody underage.
This is right. So the guy with the shotgun finally got irritated, whipped out his wallet, and threw his ID at the cashier. The cashier read the ID, saw that the man was over 21 years old, turned around and put the scotch in the bag. The man ran out of the store with his money and his scotch. And the cashier called the police and told them who this guy was and where he lived. Because he never took his license.
But he got the scotch.
Yeah, he had the scotch, so he was probably drunk when they arrested him. 2 hours later, he was arrested. All right. What else was I going to talk about tonight? Michael Phelps. Great job. 8 gold medals. He posed for the cover like Mark Spitz. Only 1 medal better. Apparently, there's a lady who's putting up a big stink because Phelps got a Frosted Flakes endorsement. And he's going to be endorsing Frosted Flakes. And this lady says, it's going to make our kids fat because you've got an athlete endorsing a sugary cereal. Well, Michael Phelps eats like 100,000 calories a day. It's been all over the news for the past week. His diet. It's like 3 fried egg sandwiches with cheese and lettuce and tomato and onions, a 5-egg omelet, 3 stacks of chocolate chip pancakes, 3 French toast with powdered sugar, and that's just for breakfast, and a bowl of grits. He eats enormous amounts of calories, but he burns 4,000 calories per race. 4,000 calories is probably more than a lot of people eat in 2 days. This guy burns in 1 race. So he can get away with eating like a pig, and our kids could get away with eating like that if you just kick them off the couch and get them out and exercise them. You walk your dogs every day for the exercise, but you'll let your kids lay on the couch and play video games with no exercise?
I think most people walk their dogs so they won't poop in the house.
Well, no, I mean that too, but you also exercise your dogs, but you don't insist that your kids get exercise. You just sit around and complain about how fat they're getting. It's kind of stupid.
And they do poop in the house.
And some of them do, not the kids. Well, some kids do too. But I don't know. It's just crazy. Anyway, I'm kind of mad because it's another one of those cases where I mean, it's an athlete. He's going to be making millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars over the next couple of years because he can swim. If he couldn't swim, he'd be a sideshow freak. He's got size 14 feet and hands the size of dinner plates, 6 feet tall with a 6'7" stretch. He's a freak till you put him in the water. Then he can swim real good, so, you know, throw him up on the pedestal. Everybody look up to him. Coming up next on No Spin, Randy didn't remember which one, but another Republican. I'm thinking Randy and Chris are getting ready to make the whole conversion into Republicans. They've got a Republican candidate for the District 2 congressional seat. Like I said, Randy didn't remember which one. But another Republican demonstrating that they don't discriminate. Next week on No Spin, Molly Kelly. I want to thank my crew, thank my sponsors, Mom's Tattoo, Gemini Screen Print. Till next week. Peace.
Hi, this is Mikey from Orange County Choppers, and you're watching Channel 8.
There you go.
Thanks, man.